From Paris to Moscow, how Traoré flipped Africa's diplomatic map. This is a dramatic and multi-layered story about a small nation daring to change its position among global powers. Ibrahim Traoré, the young president of Burkina Faso, didn't just expel French troops. He reopened the Russian embassy, moved toward new military alliances, and began crafting a multipolar foreign policy strategy. This article unpacks each of Traoré's bold decisions, from aligning with Russia and responding to the Wagner controversy, to declaring a stance of independent diplomatic sovereignty. It's not a simple case of switching allies, it's a complete reversal of the mental map of power, sovereignty, and African dignity. If you've ever believed that small nations can't shape their own destiny, watch how Traoré is forcing the world to take a second look. When a soldier reverses the geopolitical compass. For decades, Burkina Faso's diplomatic map was drawn in ink from Paris. Every flight route, every contract, every military aid package pointed in one direction, toward France, the former colonial motherland. But in 2023, a young soldier stepped forward and turned the compass around. Ibrahim Traoré didn't speak in polished diplomatic language. He acted, and his first act, expelling French troops from Burkina Faso. Something many generations had dreamed of, but none had dared to do. It wasn't impulsive. It was the first step in redefining the meaning of diplomatic sovereignty. For a nation on the rise, we want partnerships that are mutually beneficial. We want to look toward new horizons. Traoré said it, and then he did it. Since then, the world has witnessed a new Burkina Faso, forging closer ties with Russia, opening dialogue with Turkey, building alliances with Mali and Guinea, and confidently saying no to the legacy of colonial dependence. This is no longer a nation being led. This is a nation choosing who to walk with, and daring to refuse those it no longer needs. If you want to understand how a young leader is reshaping the geopolitical stance of the entire Sahel region, not with weapons, but with strategic will, then this is the story to follow. And don't forget to subscribe to Ibrahim Traoré Biography, where Africa's transformation is told through the voices of those who rise to reclaim their destiny. Expelling France, a symbolic act of sovereignty. In February 2023, Ibrahim Traoré signed a decision that sent shockwaves across Africa: the expulsion of French troops from Burkina Faso, and the termination of all bilateral military agreements with Paris. No warning, no prolonged negotiations. Just a clear, decisive, and public order to withdraw. The people don't need protection from those who don't understand them. A simple statement that went viral following the decision. For years, French forces were seen as protectors of security in the Sahel region. But over time, their presence no longer brought a sense of safety. It became a symbol of dependency, foreign control, and prolonged impotence. This event was more than a political act. It was a declaration, a way of telling the world, we will no longer outsource the defense of our homeland. From a geopolitical perspective, this was a move that rattled the region. Neighboring countries like Mali, Niger, and Guinea quickly expressed support, creating a ripple effect across the strategic landscape of West Africa. With a single decision, Traoré didn't just send French troops home. He restored the people's faith in their own army. The Sahel Alliance, Traoré and the dream of a military federation. When Traoré parted ways with France, he did not find himself isolated. On the contrary, he looked south, toward neighboring nations like Mali and Guinea, who were also walking a similar path. Decolonization, the restoration of sovereignty, and the affirmation of internal strength. From this shared momentum, an idea was born. The Sahel Alliance, not a replica of the EU, not a NATO-style military bloc. This alliance represents the coming together of military-led governments, not to wage war, but to pursue a shared vision. True independence, local security, and freedom from Western conditional aid. If one country alone cannot defend itself, then three countries sharing the same fate will not be easily divided, said an officer from Mali, capturing the spirit of this emerging alliance. From a geopolitical perspective, this is a clear declaration: we are not asking for protection. We are protecting each other. Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, three nations forming an unprecedented bloc in the modern world. They share not only borders, but the scars of foreign interference, the lessons of military takeovers, and the desire to build a system of governance that does not require approval from Paris or Washington. Though still in its early stages, the idea of a Pan-African, nationalist military federation has already sparked both hope and concern across the international community. To the West, it may represent a new geopolitical challenge, but to the people of the Sahel, it is a ray of light, a glimpse of a future free from dependency. Turning to Russia, don't be a satellite, be a partner. Shortly after parting ways with France, Ibrahim Traoré began steering Burkina Faso in a new direction, not just toward Russia, but toward a new philosophy. Don't be a satellite, be a partner. Reopening the Russian embassy in Ouagadougou after 30 years wasn't just symbolic diplomacy, it was a clear message. Burkina Faso is ready to engage with any nation, as long as the relationship is built on mutual respect and shared benefit. We are not looking for protectors, we are looking for equal partners, Traoré stated at the Russia-Africa Summit in 2023. Western media raised concerns, Russian flags on the streets, rumors of Wagner Group, and growing ties with Moscow. Was Burkina Faso becoming a reverse Ukraine, where Russia expands influence quietly, from the shadows? That the Traoré government pushed back. Our Wagner is the VDP, that is, it chose to build up a local defense force, instead of relying entirely on foreign mercenaries. In reality, by January 2024, Russian troops, including Wagner operatives, were confirmed present in Burkina Faso. That their role was not dominant, they served as technical support, within a system still led and controlled by Burkina Command. From a strategic viewpoint, this is a case of geopolitical leverage used wisely. Traoré is not resisting the West by depending on Russia. He's using Russia to balance influence and reclaim room to act independently in the global chessboard. The weak don't lose because they lack pieces. They lose because they're afraid to risk their position. Wagner, allied or apparition, as Burkina Faso cut military ties with France and moved closer to Russia. The name Wagner began to surface frequently in international headlines, a shadowy presence, evoking both curiosity and fear, from Ghana to Washington. From Le Monde to the New York Times, Western media raised a unified alarm. Traoré was allegedly partnering with Wagner to fight Islamic militants, turning Burkina Faso into a new staging ground for Russia's covert ambitions in Africa. Traoré's response, firm and loaded with meaning. Our Wagner is the VDP, he emphasized. VDP Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland is a local militia trained by the Burkina government, receiving no foreign funding. That statement wasn't just a denial. It was a declaration, we defend ourselves. And yet, reality is more layered. By January 2024, Russian personnel, including Wagner operatives, were confirmed on Burkina soil, but unlike in Mali, their role was not dominant. They provided tactical support, technology, and advisory roles in anti-terror campaigns. What's striking is this. The Traoré government doesn't hide their presence, but neither do they glorify it. They maintain operational control and avoid becoming a strategic outpost from Moscow. And that's the key difference. Wagner, once seen as a symbol of dependency, is here used as a tactical tool, not a political crutch. We didn't choose Russia over France. We chose ourselves first. In a world where allies can become bait, Traoré is playing a dangerous game, but he's placing his pieces with precision. Multipolar diplomacy, a Burkina Faso that refuses to be a puppet. Traoré has made it clear. He does not want Burkina Faso to become a forward base for any global power, nor does he intend to repeat history, trading one sphere of influence for another, while still being left out of the real negotiations. That's why he is crafting a new diplomatic doctrine for Burkina Faso. Multipolar diplomacy, rather than relying on a single superpower. He is pursuing a diversified portfolio of partnerships. Russia, Turkey, China, and even several Asian nations. As long as agreements are based on equality and mutual respect, we turn our backs on no one, but we bow to no one either. A line repeatedly emphasized by the Traoré government. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso has begun exploring new bilateral agreements, seeking military, economic, and technological cooperation. From nations free of political strings, he advocates for a multi-center Africa, where nations are no longer pawns, but architects of the board. Even the creation of the Sahel Alliance fits this vision. Rather than waiting for foreign coalitions to protect them, they are building their own, to defend, negotiate, and grow on their own terms. Traoré's foreign policy is not perfect, and many worrying that his path could slip toward militarized governance. But one thing is undeniable. Burkina Faso is no longer a puppet, they've cut the strings. It's not about changing masters, but changing mindsets. The most important element of Ibrahim Traoré's foreign policy strategy isn't who he chooses to shake hands with, but why he does it. Burkina Faso was once a pawn. It was positioned, assigned roles, and forced to perform a script written from the outside. But now, the country has chosen to rewrite the script, not just to rebel, but to finally act on its own terms. Traoré didn't turn to Russia as a reaction to France. He didn't form alliances just to fight against the old order. He did all of this to ensure that Burkina Faso becomes a player, not just a board. We are not changing masters. We are changing perspectives. That, perhaps, is the greatest transformation of a maturing diplomacy. Yes, he might make mistakes. Yes, the Sahel Alliance might face difficulties. Yes, Russia may not always be the ideal partner, but at the very least, he has done what many leaders never dare. He put national sovereignty on the table and refused to take it back. Burkina Faso is entering a new era, risky, but filled with hope, because this is no longer a place for foreign powers to experiment with policy. It's now a place where the people begin to experiment with themselves, to rise, to think, and to choose their own path. If you believe that diplomacy is not the art of picking sides, but the art of holding on to principles in turbulent waters, then Traoré's story is a lesson worth learning. Subscribe to Ibrahim Traoré Biography to continue exploring real politics, real strategy, and real action, where power isn't measured by weapons, but by independent thinking and the courage to never back down.